Hi, everybody. I want to take a moment and welcome everybody to the Engineerica Education Keynote Series. The title of today's presentation is Meeting Students Where They Are and Embedded Tutoring Across Disciplines. We're very pleased to be bringing you this complimentary presentation. For those of you new to us, Engineerica specializes in academic center management systems for higher education. You might be familiar with our software applications, including Academia and AccuClass. And I want to give a special welcome to any Engineerica clients joining us today. We started this keynote series for our clients and contacts who wanted to learn more about best practices and trends in higher education. And each month we feature a distinguished speaker to talk about hot topics in the academic support field. We'll send out an announcement when we begin promotion on the next webinar, so keep an eye on your emails and on our social media channels. Next, for those of you who are not clients yet, I do want to let you know that we are offering a complimentary trial of our most popular center management software, Academia. This gives you the opportunity to use Academia for an entire semester, risk-free, and see if it helps make the management of your center and data collection easier. If you're interested, you can send an email to the email on the screen. It's going to be chad with 2 Ds, b@engineerica.com. I also wanted to let you know about our live conference that we organize near our company's headquarters in Orlando, Florida, at which we'll host many presentations just like this one, along with software training for clients. This will be our third time hosting this conference, and it's always a lot of fun. We currently have plans for February 7th through 9th, 2027, and we're currently accepting proposals if you're interested in presenting a breakout session of your own. And in the chat, I will post the link to the conference so you can register. Just a quick introduction to myself. I'm Aaron Gerber, a software support representative with Engineerica, and I'm very passionate about higher education and student success. I also have here with me Nick Armstrong, our software support manager, who's here as my backup and also to help with any technical issues that may come up on our end, the speaker's end, or your end. And with that, I'm pleased to introduce you to this month's speaker. Dr. Jenny Haley is an internationally recognized leader in learning assistance, peer tutoring, and learning center administration with more than 25 years of experience advancing student success in higher education. She currently serves as chairperson of the Council of Learning Assistance and Developmental Education Associations, where she is serving her third elected term and is a past president of the International College Learning Center Association. In her ongoing leadership role with the ICLCA, she serves as a Learning Center Leadership Certification Officer, supporting the development and certification of Learning Center professionals internationally. Dr. Haley also serves as the chairperson of the ICLCA Summer Institute 2026 and holds ICLCA's highest distinction, the Level 4 Lifetime Learning Center Leadership Certification. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Haley so she can share her screen.
Thank you so much, Aaron, for the nice introduction. So thank you so much for being here today. As Aaron was saying, my name is Jenny Haley, and I'm the director of the Learning Center here at Ball State. It's going to be the start of my 26th year at the Learning Center. So I'm really happy to tell you about our newest program, Embedded Tutoring. A lot of you are exploring this programming as well. I'm really happy to be in my air-conditioned office today. The heat index is 106 in Indiana today, and maybe it's that high where you are as well. So today I'm going to tell you all about a program that I created here at Ball State and that I continue to coordinate. I'm really proud of this program and all the work that the embedded tutors have done. My dean and my provost are really excited about this program as well. And I just can't wait to share my experiences with you. So I want to start by explaining why we started an embedded tutoring program at Ball State. And I'm going to tell you a story that may well be your story as well, or it might sound very familiar to you too. Since COVID, we have definitely experienced declining usage for many of our programs, including appointment-based tutoring and drop-in tutoring. And I think there's a lot of different reasons for that, right? We've noticed that students' interpersonal skills are different now. They seem very shy about reaching out to people they don't know to ask for help. So there's been a change in help-seeking behavior, a reluctance to engage in that. And then, of course, with the launch of ChatGPT in 2021, AI, I believe, has also had a pretty big impact at least at our university, that has maybe stopped students from seeking help from a human. So we wanted to go a little deeper, though. What were some of the other big barriers for students in using academic peer support in our center? And maybe this is the same for you as well. What we really found was our traditional appointment-based and drop-in tutoring rely on self-referral. So it is a help-seeking model. And it's a model that assumes that students really can recognize when they need help, and then they're motivated to seek it out. And I think those two assumptions a lot of the time are actually very wrong. So it's a pull model, right? Students need to proactively pull the resources towards themselves. And in practice, this is a self-identification and an activation process, and those are barriers that may prevent students from accessing all of the great resources that we have in our center, that you have in your center. So we really started to become invested in looking for a push model, and embedded tutoring really provided that because the support is delivered right there to students in the class. It's kind of pushed towards them. They do not have to make an appointment to see a tutor or remember where to go for drop-in or attend study sessions for SI, etc. So we decided to start a pilot. My dean was very excited about this prospect, and we piloted it in 2 classes with 2 faculty members, Math 125 and Spanish 201. And the pilot was wildly successful. I was so happy about this. The DFW rates improved dramatically in both of those classes when we compared the DFW rates to prior semesters for those exact same instructors teaching the exact same class. And the grades improved. There was very positive feedback from students and faculty. So we really felt like we had a great first semester. So that's just a little bit laying the groundwork, giving you some historical background about why we decided to pilot this program. So I'm really curious now. Erin's going to run a poll. I want to know where you are in your embedded tutoring journey. Maybe you already have embedded tutoring in place. Maybe you're interested in starting embedded tutoring program, or you're just gathering information today. And I think, Erin, if you could give them a minute or two to respond and then let me know what those results were, that would be great.
Yep, I started the poll now, so everybody can just click on their answer, and give everybody a few more seconds to get their answers in, and then I'll let you know the results.
Awesome.
All right, that seems to be about everybody, so I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. And so for each of the answer choices, I have an embedded tutoring program in place. About 33 people chose that. That's going to be about 57% of the total answers.
Wow, okay.
Yep, the next highest one was I'm not sure yet, just gathering information. That was about 28%. And the final one was I'm interested in starting an embedded tutoring program, and that was about 16%.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That gives me a great idea of our audience today. Hopefully, if you do have an embedded tutoring program in place, you'll get some more ideas today. And maybe I can get ideas from you too. This is meant to be a sharing type of session. And if you're not sure yet, or you're gathering information, or you want to start an embedded tutoring program, but you're not sure where to start, hopefully this will give you some incentives, some ideas to get that program started in the near future. All right, so what is it? So it's different at every university, just like every program is different at every university. Well, this is what embedded tutoring means for us here at Ball State. So in the classroom, the embedded tutor assists the instructor as needed, kind of like a TA would do. But their main job is to engage with and help students during individual and group work and other class activities. So these are not traditionally structured classrooms that are pure lecture. There's always time for students to work either individually or in groups on assignments or projects or discussions. And during that time, the embedded tutor is floating and engaging with students on a really meaningful level. Also, they're demonstrating the skills needed to be a successful student. They are imparting tips on how to study, not just on the content itself. They can help get discussion going in the classroom by asking thoughtful questions or providing answers if the instructor wants them to play that role. That can be a very effective way to kind of jumpstart a lagging discussion. A super important part of our embedded tutors' jobs is to destigmatize help getting by regularly providing assistance. Just by being there and helping the students in the class, they're destigmatizing that whole idea of getting help from a peer. Regularly and enthusiastically encouraging students to attend other tutoring sessions, appointment-based, drop-in, or even to see the embedded tutor during their office hour. And out of the classroom, they do hold at least one office hour each week, so they can meet with students who need some extra help, meet with faculty, work on their training, or meet with Learning Center supervisors as well. Some of our embedded tutors hold more than one office hour depending on the student demand. So before we go much further, I really encourage you, if you're interested, or even if you've started an embedded tutoring program, to immerse yourself in the scholarship if you haven't already done so. There's a great bibliography authored by Tiffany Ann Elliott, a researcher for embedded tutoring. She updated this in March of 2024. I'm sure she'll probably update it again. There are all kinds of really important, informative articles here, and I've shared these with faculty as well. Maybe faculty who are interested in having an embedded tutor in their classroom, but they're not really sure about the theory behind it, or if it would really work in their writing class or in their foreign language class, or what have you. So I just put a few of the topics up here, but that QR code will take you to that bibliography, and I really encourage you to check that out. Also, an absolute must-read for embedded tutoring, ICLCA, the International College Learning Center Association, has a peer-reviewed journal called TLAR. If you've never heard of that before, it's the Learning Assistance Review. And sometimes they'll do special editions where they just tackle one topic. And this April, they devoted an issue to embedded tutoring. So embedded tutoring definition and minimum standards were published in TLAR in April. 76 Learning Center professionals contributed to this. Dr. Rebecca Tedesco organized that effort, so I really encourage you to read through that journal issue. It is just so very helpful. All right, so one of the reasons I wanted to start embedded tutoring at our university is, like I said already, we really wanted to normalize tutoring for all students and kind of remove that stigma. So this course, Embedded Tutoring, increases our visibility and accessibility by bringing it right into the classroom. This is really important for at-risk students. As we all well know, oftentimes the students who need the most help are the least likely to request an appointment for tutoring or to attend an SI study session or to drop in tutoring. According to one study, students reported that they were more inclined to visit the Learning Center because they had that interaction in class with an embedded tutor. Oh, this isn't so bad. Maybe I should get a tutor outside of class for more help. So the equity issue becomes at-risk students are less likely to seek tutoring for a variety of reasons. This is a well-researched and documented fact, and embedded tutoring helps to remove that barrier. So what we've noticed is that by embedding tutors into the classroom, the Learning Center really has this perception, or students have this perception now of the Learning Center as a resource that everybody can use. And it's not just a place where students who are failing go, or they don't know anything about math or chemistry, or they're a beginning Japanese speaker and they have to go get help. I think that having the embedded tutors in the classroom has really let the students know that this is a service that really proactive, successful students use. So the cross-disciplinary piece of this is really important to us. And it was important to my dean as well when we started talking about launching embedded tutoring. He did want me to focus on high DFW courses. So the red flag was to take a look at courses where 30% or more of the students were earning D's, F's, or withdrawing from the class. And yes, these are often math and science courses, at least here at our university. So we did focus on those courses, but it's also very important to offer this program across the disciplines. For one thing, for students, the importance for students is that they don't just struggle in these gateway STEM courses. They encounter challenges across the disciplines in all different kinds of classes. For example, we noticed that in the Japanese classes and the Spanish classes that we've offered embedded tutoring in, students need frequent opportunities to practice speaking, ask questions, and take risks without feeling embarrassed. Once we put peers in the classroom, that was starting to happen. In our art classes, 3D animation, students really benefited from immediate feedback because they were actually creating very complex projects in very complicated software right there in class. So they needed the help right there in class, not the next day at an appointment, in the Learning Center. Offering embedded tutoring across the discipline really sends that message that academic support is for learning, not remediation, and that helps to reduce the stigma. It's important for faculty too. We acknowledge that faculty across disciplines have different instructional needs, but no matter what discipline we are placing an embedded tutor for, they are able to facilitate active learning that happens during class. They can help answer routine questions while the instructor works with another student, so they can act as a team. They really help to get those quiet students who may never speak up into the conversation. That's pretty hard when you're one instructor and you have 30 to 100 students in the class. They can provide formative feedback during activities and really kind of help to just identify those misconceptions before they become major problems. So, we have embedded tutoring for chemistry, math, biology, different foreign languages, art, and they may use their tutor and do use their tutor very differently. But the thing they have in common is that they've gained another educator who can really help with student learning in their classroom. And finally, having a cross-disciplinary embedded tutoring program is really important, or should be important, for upper administration. We want to make sure that the Learning Center is supporting the entire academic mission, that they are actively partnering with many departments across campus, contributing to student engagement and belonging, just promoting that equitable access. One problem that we run into sometimes, because we do offer so much different support for the STEM courses, math and chemistry, especially business classes, oftentimes there's the perception that the Learning Center belongs to certain colleges or departments. And making sure that we are placing embedded tutors across the discipline really helps to prevent that. So we want to position ourselves as a center that exists to support how students learn and not just what they are learning. So this little quote down here at the bottom is something that I've developed when I am talking to the provost, talking to deans or departmental heads about all of the different classes that we offer embedded tutoring for. Students may be solving differential equations, or speaking Japanese, or learning accounting concepts, writing essay, designing 3D environments, but they're all engaging in this learning process of being with their peers. A peer who's already taken that class, earned an A, can mentor them through it. They're able to ask questions, practice new skills, receive feedback, reflect on their mistakes, just become really confident, collaborative learners. So just kind of a little side quest here. Our university, along with the University of Ohio and Miami of Ohio and a couple of other universities in Ohio, have created a student virtual conference, and we hold it every February. And this is purely our students presenting concurrent sessions. So they get that opportunity to actually present at a conference about peer academic support. This past February, two of my embedded tutors presented together. One of them was from STEM, math class, I believe, and one of them was a 3D animation class. So they gave a whole presentation about how their jobs as embedded tutors were the same and also different. Different tutoring strategies, different approaches, different benefits, but also how the training benefited them both, and how they could learn from each other as well. So I just had to include that because I think they did a really good job of laying the fact out there that having embedded tutoring in many different disciplines is a really important step. So from my pilot a couple years ago, more than a couple, 2.5, 3 years ago, where I had embedded tutoring placed in 2 classes, this is our lineup for fall so far. So we have 47 sections identified, and you can see all the different classes. We'll be targeting accounting, animation, art foundations, biology, chemistry, Japanese, and several different math classes. And multiple sections of some of those as well. I'm not fully staffed yet. I am still hiring for the Chem 101 labs. Everything else looks like it's in pretty good shape so far. But that is my goal for fall, which begs the question, how did we afford that? So I'm going to get to that in a minute. But first, I had to just show you a picture of my tutors from the spring, because we were just so proud of them and all the hard work that they did. The training day was really fun, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit as well. So obviously, recruiting the right faculty is the biggest, most important step before you can even launch a pilot. You have to get somebody interested and invested and willing to experiment along with you. So I started out way back when I was working on the pilot by sending some emails to department chairs. Hey, are there any faculty in your department who have flipped classroom structure? Or if not a flipped classroom, they at least allow time in class for students to work independently or together. That enabled me to start the conversation. Many of them responded back, oh, so-and-so might be a great fit or might be really interested, or this person has expressed interest in moving that way. They still are pretty purely lecture, but you might want to talk to them. This enabled me to have a lot of really good conversations with faculty. I also talk to students, as you probably know, and you probably experienced this as well. Students are a golden source of information about which classes and which professors need support and which might be a good fit for whatever programming you're trying to create. So talking to my current tutors or some of our clients that come into the Learning Center really enabled us to get insight on this as well. Our university has a student success symposium every fall, and I presented at the first one 3 years ago about embedded tutoring, about how I wanted to pilot this program. I explained what it was all about, and this was a really good way to interact with faculty. Interestingly, I think all of the faculty except for one who attended my session said, I really am interested in this, but I haven't flipped my classroom yet, or I don't yet give students time to work in class. It's still all lecture because I feel like I don't have time to give them time in class to practice and work and meet together. So at least, if nothing else, for those faculty, I think I started getting them thinking and a little bit more excited about, if they do eventually move to that model, what kind of academic support could be beneficial for them. And then I did some direct outreach as well to courses with high DFW rates or instructors with high DFW rates to see if their teaching style fit the model. So that was pretty successful. The things that I would tell these faculty, if they're interested, I'd ask them if their course was structured in this way to provide students with time to work during most class sessions. Does your course have frequent assessment, such as quizzes, assignments, and projects? I really didn't want to focus on classes that had maybe 2 or 3 tests the entire semester, and that was the only way students were assessed. Not that it couldn't work. I still think there could be meaningful discussions and projects happening in class that tutors could help with. But at least when I started this program, when I started the pilot, I wanted to focus on classes that had homework, assignments, projects that immediately pertain to the information that was being given in class. Does your course have 30 or fewer students, or are you willing to host more than one embedded tutor? I really try to stick to that ratio. So we have a couple of biology classes that have 90 students, 75 to 90 students. And I always try to staff at least 2 embedded tutors there. So there are 2 tutors plus the instructor circulating during times when students have to work. Does your course have a history of DFW rates of 30% or higher? That criteria is not a deal breaker. Some classes have great grade outcomes, but they're also a great fit for embedded tutoring. So DFW is not the end-all be-all deciding factor for sure. And then really, I just wanted faculty who are really excited about teaming up with a tutor and working as really teammates to help out students during class time. So I really did not want necessarily to work with faculty who would just sit while they give students time to work. I wanted them to also be circulating and engaging with students in a meaningful way, and they all have been. Now, let's talk about money or lack thereof. So when I started the embedded tutoring program at Ball State, I had no funding at all. In fact, I didn't have enough money in my student wage budget for the programming we already had to grow. I mean, we were just barely holding the line on maintaining the number of tutors we had. Eventually, I did get a little bit of grant funding. So at first, we just had no provision, but we did have a dean who said, I want you to pilot embedded tutoring. I'm really interested in this program because we've been talking about it in the past. So I said, well, can you throw me, $3,000 or $4,000? Alas, there was no $3,000 or $4,000 to be thrown. So he told me to make some strategic choices. And what that meant is that I had to carve out money from my already paltry student wage budget to fund these tutors. And that is exactly what I did because he's my boss and I have to do what he says. But we did demonstrate really good success that first semester. The DFW rates were significantly lower in those sections compared to when those same professors taught those classes in previous semesters. And we just had so much positive student and faculty feedback that we were allotted some grant money for the second year of the pilot. When the grant money ran out, the provost agreed to a one-time $26,000 student wage budget increase, but that was to be shared with all of our programming. So that also had to be doled out to appointment-based tutoring, drop-in tutoring, and supplemental instruction. So I had a little bit of money to work with, which ran out in the fall of 2025. So at that point, that's when we really started to get creative. So let's talk about that, creative funding, which I'm sure many of you have also done in the past. The first bullet point here is not creative funding. It's the strategic program planning. So what I had to do was strategically restructure appointment-based tutoring to concentrate on courses most in demand and just carve out permanent money, a devoted piece of that budget pie for embedded tutoring. So that's really making a commitment, right? I mean, we've had a pilot, it was successful. We piloted it in some other classes with grant money, which is now gone. It was successful. Now we're going to really commit to this program, which means taking away from other programming funding or restructuring it in a way that is just better for students, that meets their needs. So that was the first step. The second step was I asked departments to fund the embedded tutors that we were providing for their classes, at least in part. So to start with, I'll give the example of the art department. One semester I had 10 art embedded tutors placed. I had a lot of grant money that semester. And they loved it. The art department just absolutely loved it. Of course they did, right? It got great results. Grades were better. DFW rates were better. Students and faculty were happy. Then I had to tell them, look, the grant money has run out. It was fun while it lasted. For the spring, I can afford 2 tutors instead of 10. But if you want more than that, and if you are willing to reimburse our student wage account, here's how much they cost. So the wages for an embedded tutor for one semester are generally around $720 per semester. $12 per hour, approximately 4 hours a week for 15 weeks. Some of them are higher because their classes meet more than 3 hours a week. So maybe the class meets 5 or 6 hours a week, plus they have an office hour. So they work 6 or 7 hours a week, times 12, times 15. So I really quantified it in that way and said, this is how much it will cost you to place one tutor for the semester. And they loved it. They came back and said, well, we can't provide 8 or 10, but we have enough money to provide 4 extra tutors, which was absolutely great. The math department did the same thing as well. And that allowed us to actually grow the program that next semester, even though we had lost our own student wage funding through a grant running out. So this moral of this story is, when quantified like that, I think departments are much more likely, first of all, to understand the impact on your budget, and they're more likely to commit to their own budget reimbursement if they have that money available to them. Another idea that I've used is to ask departments to make embedded tutoring part of their graduate assistance assignment. So for example, the math department gives me 7 to 9 embedded tutors each semester for free. So they assign their graduate assistants, who are trained and supervised by us. Some of their graduate assistant 20 hours per week are devoted to embedded tutoring. So these GAs work as embedded tutoring, say for 4 hours a week. They're also graders, and they're also doing research. They have other responsibilities as part of their assistantship, but I get them for that 4 or 5 hours a week, and I'm able to train them and supervise them, and it's great for my budget as well. This has worked out very, very well. And then finally, this last point is just so improbable, and I still can't believe this has happened. So I don't know about you all, but if we ever don't use all of the money in our student wage budget, it just vanishes. It's reallocated somewhere else. It never rolls over into the next semester. So at the end of this spring semester, I realized that we were actually $20,000 in the black, because our SI program was not able to recruit enough students to fill the program, either in fall or spring. We had a lot of trouble attracting students to those positions. And my assistant director just didn't use all of the money that he was allocated. So we had 20,000 extra bucks. And so I just one day in my one-on-one meeting with my dean said, hey, is there any way we can roll that over into the next academic year for embedded tutoring? And he shocked me by saying, well, I'll ask the provost. Don't hold your breath, but I'll ask him and see what he says. Lo and behold, he agreed to do it, which was unheard of. Like I said, this will be my 26th year, and this has never, ever happened before, this whole idea of rolling money over. So I don't know if this will work for you all, or if you even have any extra money to roll over. I think it was just a serendipitous thing. But the bigger lesson is you'll never get anything that you don't ask for. So don't be afraid to put out your great data and say, look what we're doing. Look at all that we're doing for student success and student belonging. How about you give us some money? and put it together and be persistent, and you just never know what you'll get. So I'm really interested to hear from you. Our second poll, if I can get this to work, is on Menti. There's the QR code and there's the number code in case you want to do that. So this question is all about what creative ideas do you have for funding in your learning center for your programming. It doesn't have to be embedded tutoring, and it could be something that you've already tried. That's okay too. So I'm going to click a tab and see if you can all see this. Aaron, can you see this poll?
Yep, that's working. And then we have a few questions from the chat as well, and I can read those out if you want to respond to them while people are writing their responses to the poll.
Great.
Alrighty, so the first question is, do you typically approach faculty to start a partnership, or do your faculty reach out to you?
I typically approach faculty. I think I've only ever had one faculty person approach me. It's always been the conversation has always been initiated by me, which is fine. I think a lot of times faculty are just so busy, or they might not really know a lot about or understand a lot about our programming. So I really try to approach them by popping into their office. Sometimes I'll give them a phone call or an email, but talking to people one-on-one is just so much more effective. I got a biology 112 faculty person interested in piloting embedded tutoring in his course for the fall. So I'm very excited about that. Oh, we're getting lots of good responses here.
Yep, we have another couple questions. The next one is, I'm wondering if you hire staff who are specifically just for embedded tutoring. We currently send tutors to classrooms as embedded tutors, but they also are scheduled in the tutoring center.
Yeah, I think there can definitely be crossover. So typically I hire them as embedded tutors. And if I know that we still have spots to fill for appointment-based tutoring or drop-in, I will ask them, hey, this is great. You're going to be an embedded tutor for Math 113. We actually offer appointment-based tutoring and drop-in tutoring for that class, as well as many of the other classes you would be able to tutor. If you would like some extra hours, we would be happy to have our tutoring coordinator talk to you about that. And that has actually happened many times in the past, where they will also work as appointment-based or drop-in tutors. That's a great question.
Yep, and then there's one more. It's sort of in line with the last one. Do you have the same student staff work as embedded tutors and traditional tutors in the Learning Center, or do you just hire a separate team of student staff just to do the embedded tutoring?
Yeah, so technically I hire a special staff of embedded tutors. My tutoring coordinator has her staff of appointment-based tutors. If they're math or chemistry appointment-based tutors, they'll also staff our math or chemistry drop-in, which actually happens in our learning center space. We have business appointment-based tutors who might help staff our business drop-in, and then we have a physics drop-in as well. Lots of sharing there because she's in charge of the appointment-based and drop-ins, so she just puts them where she needs them. But I have a specific staff of embedded tutors. They go through different training than our appointment-based and drop-in tutors. And then my assistant director has a specific staff of SI leaders who go through different training as well.
All right, and then one more question real quick here. To what degree do embedded tutors and instructors plan together and communicate? Are embedded tutors paid for any kind of planning time?
Yes. So during their office hour, if they are not helping students, they're definitely planning, and many of them arrange to meet with their faculty person as well, at least once a week, sometimes more often than that. Sometimes they meet with them before or after class, and that works too. And we always say, anytime you're doing anything related to embedded tutoring, of course, attending class, but holding an office hour or meeting with the faculty person or the lab instructor, they will clock in and get paid for that time. All right, I'm just looking through some of these ideas, which I really love. Conducting research and using a research stipend. I love that. STEM specific tutoring coming in from donors. We have used volunteers as embedded tutors. There have been 2 of my embedded tutors who were actually RAs, residence assistants. They already worked 20 hours a week, so they weren't allowed to work any more hours, but they still wanted to be embedded tutors, and they actually needed volunteer hours for their resumes, so that worked out really well. Having colleges and departments pay for a position, maybe asking student government for money. Grants like state student success, I love that. Tapping into state funding in California. FWS, absolutely. Many of our, well, I won't say many, but there are some of our embedded tutors and other student staff, appointment-based tutors, drop-in tutors who do have federal work study. So that's great. Partnerships with other areas such as student life, I like that. Well, pie day, $5 to smash a pie in your favorite tutor or faculty face. I like that idea. Additional funding from departments that request the service, absolutely. Somebody has a great president who supports their programming. Okay, on-campus collaborations, surge tutoring, increasing our availability around peak exam times. These are all great ideas. Thank you so much for putting those in there. I appreciate it. All right, can you see my PowerPoint again now?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So I better move on. Let me do a time check here. Okay. So I wanted to tell you about how we track usage. We do track every interaction that the embedded tutors have with students, both inside and outside the classroom. I didn't do that at first. During my pilot semester, I didn't track at all. I mean, I tracked office hour, students who came to visit the office hour, but nothing that was happening in the classroom. And I decided I needed to know how many students they were interacting with, which students they were interacting with. So each one of our embedded tutors is provided with a roster. This is an Excel spreadsheet that includes all the names of the students and their IDs. As they walk around and interact with students during class, they put a check next to the student's name on the roster. Some of them do this digitally with an iPad or laptop. And then after class, they enter the students into the embedded tutoring kiosk and navigate. And this allows us to track usage in many different metrics. And they also log students who attend the office hours. My graduate assistant and I generate weekly usage reports. We have a summary report, and then we have a more detailed report. And I'll share that with you in just a second. But one semester, an embedded tutor, I noticed that she didn't have very many, it didn't appear she was helping very many students in the classroom, very low rates of engagement. And so she said, I feel for traditional animation that most of the help I give are like small tips or almost drive-by tips. I don't have interactions for help over 30 seconds. And so I've only been logging the people I have full interactions with. So I worked this into an in-service immediately so we could train all of our tutors on this very subject. And I sent out an email as well. And I said, what counts as an interaction? Are you discussing course-related content with a student? Are you giving them time to ask questions? When you provide information, do you ask them to demonstrate that they've understood? For example, now explain that back to me. I'm going to watch for a bit while you walk your way through the problem or while you work with the software, so I can kind of coach you through it. And then are you asking them a lot of questions? Because you should be doing that. If you are engaging with a student using these techniques that they've learned during training and during their Canvas training modules, their interactions should be longer than 30 seconds. They just should be longer than that. If the student really just has an easy, straightforward question, stick around for a few minutes, observe what they're doing, be engaged, ask them questions, express an interest, and just spend more meaningful time with the student. So really, the easy answer is that every interaction they have with students that involve course-related content deserves a check mark next to their name on the roster. But they really should be striving to get to know their students as unique learners. So they need to be asking those probing questions, doing model coach scaffolding, doing role reversal, all the good things that they're learning during training. So the weekly usage report, this is just an example of a summary. This one is from finals week during fall. This one is from finals week during spring. So we always list the total visits for that week, the cumulative distinct students, and cumulative embedded tutoring visits, which are interactions with students. The reason the visits for that week were so small was because it was finals week. So many of the classes, you know, the tutors didn't even go because the students were just taking a final exam. But that gives you a little bit of idea of our most recent numbers and how those have grown since our pilot days. And then our detailed weekly usage reports report on the number of students registered in the class, cumulative visits, the distinct students, and then I track the percentage of students in the class who interacted with embedded tutors. The target's always 30% or more, and once they reach that target, they get a green highlight. Under target, 20 to 29% is yellow, and the red flag is 1 to 19%. So all of our classes achieved that 30% or higher by finals week, and actually most of them achieved that by the middle of the semester. So I was really happy with the way my students were really making an effort to engage with as many students in class as possible. Woo! I need to start talking just a little bit faster. So I wanted to talk a little bit about KPIs and SLOs because assessment is really important. How do I know the program is successful, and what do I want the students to learn? So my KPIs for this coming year, the implementation KPI, at least 30% of students enrolled in each supported course will interact with the embedded tutor at least once during the semester. So some of the metrics that we measure are usage, grade outcomes, DFW rates, retention, tutor performance, student feedback, faculty feedback, and tutor feedback. And to do this, we use all kinds of tools. Weekly usage reports, like I just showed you, those are generated from Navigate. Grade reports, DFW reports, retention reports, surveys in the mid-semester and end of semester, and faculty one-on-one meetings as well. I wanted to show you an example of the surveys that we use. We give one survey during week 5. It's our Keep, Start, Stop survey. Many of you might have heard of this kind of survey. My embedded tutor should keep doing, my embedded tutor should start doing, and my embedded tutor should stop doing. These are so extraordinarily useful for our tutors so they can adjust their behavior and their actions and activities in the classroom. And then the end of semester survey, did you have any interactions with the embedded tutor during class? That's an important question. If you did not interact, why not? I never felt like I needed help. I'm too shy to ask for help. The tutor was too busy. I needed help, but I wasn't sure what to ask. That's the one that gets circled the most. And if they did interact with the tutor, we have them rate those interactions. Were they approachable and easy to talk to? Were they available when they had questions? The tutor helped me feel more confident in the subject. And then that one that kind of harkens back to the student learning outcome, interactions with my tutor enhanced my understanding of course concepts and contributed meaningfully to my learning in the course. Those surveys are just so valuable to us. I do realize I'm running short, so I'm sorry I'm talking so fast through these slides, but this is our embedded tutoring evaluation form. My graduate assistant and I, as a team, make sure that we give a formal evaluation to every single one of our embedded tutors each semester, sometimes more than once if we feel that's necessary. We're looking at the way they use their time, the way they approach students, professor collaboration, the client rapport, course understanding, navigate tracking, tutoring strategies, and critical thinking. All of those elements are commented on and suggestions are given, and we meet with them afterwards to discuss those. This is an example of a data table that looks at retention, average term GPAs for each class, and it also puts it into buckets: 1 interaction, 2 to 3, 4 to 7, 8 or more, and how many of those students persisted to the next term, persisted to the next fall term, and then their average term cumulative GPA. So our Office of Institutional Research and Design or Support, or whatever it's called, helped us to put this Tableau table together. And then, of course, the DFW outcomes, the higher ups are really interested in this. This is one that was put together in the past that showed some pretty significant decreases in DFW rates in a lot of the courses that we offered embedded tutoring for. This has to be the same instructor who taught it in a previous semester where there was no embedded tutor. So training, I will whip through this in just a couple of minutes. We do have pre-semester Super Sunday training that lasts about 4 hours. We also have tutor training modules on Canvas that they work through. We have 3 training in-services throughout the semester and frequent one-on-one meetings during their office hours throughout the semester with the GA. I'm just going to pop these topics in. These are the topics that our training materials and activities are really based on. Communicating with the instructor, being friendly and approachable, being proactive. That's an important one. We want them to circulate throughout the classroom, observe students' work, initiate conversation, use thoughtful questions to engage the student. We don't just want them helping students with their hands up. A lot of students will never raise their hand or ask for help, but they really need it. Mastering the art of micro-tutoring. We spend a lot of time on that during our pre-semester training. You can't really sit down with a student for 20 minutes. You have to help them in 2 to 3 minutes. How do you do that effectively, and how do you come back to them and check on their progress? Connecting students to additional resources, very important, and then facilitating learning, not just giving answers. So this is my last slide, and this is the absolute best way we know that embedded tutoring is working. These are some of the quotes that we've gathered from spring semester, our latest semester. So I'll just give you a second to kind of run your eyes over those, but it's really focused on how they really make an effort to walk around and help everybody. They're very patient. They give lots of good examples and study guides. They help without just giving answers. They help me to figure out the answer myself. He leads students to correct answers without giving it away. She's patient and thoughtful. This is the kind of data that matters the most to me. Is, you know, do students feel like they belong in that class and on this campus? Do they feel like they're being successful and really learning the material in a deep and meaningful way? That's the ultimate goal for embedded tutoring. And we really feel like over the past few semesters, we've learned a lot, and we're striving even closer to meeting that goal. That's just my thank you slide. So I think I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen.
Yep, and we have a few questions from the chat. If you want to answer those, I can read those out for you. So the first one is, do you train faculty who utilize embedded tutors? And have you ever asked faculty to sign some kind of agreement, like how to use embedded tutors?
That's a great question. We don't formally train faculty, but I definitely meet with faculty, like especially new faculty. We do have some faculty that have been doing this every semester, so they're a lot easier to work with. But especially for the new folks, I do meet with them personally one-on-one to go over the expectations. You know, here's what your embedded tutor can do. This is very flexible. It's different for every class, but here's what they really can't do and shouldn't be doing. I know for supplemental instruction, when I was in charge of that program, I did have them sign kind of a contract type of thing, so just so I was sure that they understood all of the expectations. I have not done that with embedded tutoring so far, but that may be something that I revive.
All right, another question. Do faculty get to refer students to be their embedded tutor, or they're not involved in the hiring process?
Yes, they are deeply involved in the hiring process. I definitely ask them all the time, you know, hey, your person's graduating, your embedded tutor's graduating, or they're student teaching, or they won't be able to tutor. Or for brand new faculty, you know, who are some high performing students that you could recommend? So that's actually the first thing I do is ask for faculty input and recommendations when I am recruiting students.
Awesome. And then there was another question. Someone was wondering what counts as a visit. What is the criteria for a visit?
Yeah, so so as I said on the slide, if they're, oh, so the visits are actually interactions with the students in class. Maybe that's the question that they're answering. So as our tutors are floating around the classroom and speaking with students, if they are interacting with those students, then they'll put a check mark next to their name on the roster and enter them into the embedded tutoring kiosk after class, and that's a visit. Same thing as an interaction in class or during an office hour.
All right, awesome. First off, I want to say thank you, Dr. Haley, for sharing your time and expertise with us today. And everybody can join me in giving a virtual round of applause to Dr. Haley. We also want to take time out of our day to thank you for joining us. We hope you found today's session valuable and that you'll be able to apply some of the ideas and best practices discussed in your own work. As a reminder, you'll be directed to a brief survey when you leave today's webinar, and we truly appreciate any feedback you can provide as it helps us to improve our future sessions. A recording of today's presentation will also be emailed to all registered attendees within the next couple days. And I just want to say on behalf of everyone at Engineerica, thank you again for joining us today, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Bye, everybody.